My mom secretly canceled my baby shower without telling me, all because my golden sister announced her pregnancy. Once again, she prioritized my sister's news over celebrating my own milestones. A 33-year-old woman was adopted by my parents after my biological mother abandoned me at a fire station when I was born. My parents had been trying to have a child for a long time, but despite their best efforts, they had not been successful. So they turned to adoption, hoping to fill the void in their hearts. My adoptive mother, whom I simply call Mom, often tells me the story of how she fell in love with me the moment she saw me. She says she felt an overwhelming love and instantly knew I was meant to be her daughter. My parents worked tirelessly to bring me into their lives, and for that I will be forever grateful. They went through a lot of paperwork, interviews and home visits to ensure they could provide a safe and loving home for me. I can't imagine what my life would have been like in the orphanage if they hadn't adopted me. My adoptive parents not only gave me a home, but also saved my life in many ways. I was their first child, and for many years I enjoyed the attention and unconditional love of my parents. They showered me with love and care throughout my childhood. However, unlike my parents, my maternal grandparents did not want me at all. They constantly told my parents that adopting me had been a big mistake and refused to acknowledge or speak to me. Their coldness was evident and deeply hurtful, even though as a child I couldn't fully understand why they treated me that way. One particularly painful memory from my childhood was during Christmas. The whole family used to go on holiday to my grandparents' cabin where everyone exchanged gifts. It was a happy and joyful occasion as it was my first time being part of the celebrations. While receiving gifts from everyone, my grandparents flatly refused to give me anything. They insisted that I wasn't really part of the family and therefore they didn't feel any obligation to give me anything. This led to a big fight between my dad and my maternal grandparents. My dad, furious. Fortunately, my parents must have realized how I was feeling, so they had a talk with me. They assured me that I would always be their first daughter, no matter what. My mother also pointed out how I could now have a younger sister to share my days with, which was exciting. After talking with them, I felt much better and couldn't wait to meet my little sister. The day Claire was born, our whole family was overjoyed. I remember feeling fascinated looking at her for the first time. Everything about her, from her delicate fingers to her bright eyes, seemed incredibly adorable to me. And being a big sister added a new dimension to my life. We were incredibly close during her early years. Claire would follow me everywhere and sometimes even try to imitate everything I did. Of course, like any siblings, we had our occasional fights, but I loved her too much to stay angry with her for long. However, the real problem between us began when my maternal grandparents started telling Claire as she grew older that I wasn't her real sister. Initially, my parents were unaware of this as they sometimes left Claire at her grandparents' house for visits. But after each visit, Claire's behavior towards me gradually changed. She became disdainful and rude to me without any apparent reason. If I wanted to play with her or spend time together, she would yell at me until I left her alone. My parents noticed this change and tried talking to her, but Claire never gave any reason, so they attribute it to a phase she was going through. But things started to get worse between us as we grew up. One day I came home after school and discovered that all the clothes in my wardrobe had holes in them. There were random holes of different sizes cut into all my clothes. I thought maybe I was going crazy, and this was a mistake because there was no way all my dresses suddenly had holes. My first instinct was to call my mom, who was also shocked and baffled. She suggested that it could be rats, but the number of holes in all my clothes overnight made that explanation unlikely. We were both at a loss for the strange situation. Then a few days later, I encountered another bizarre incident. My contact lenses, which I had left on the table before showering, mysteriously disappeared. I searched everywhere but couldn't find them as I didn't have spare glasses. I couldn't attend my classes that day. When I informed my parents, they scolded me for being irresponsible, assuming I had misplaced them. I tried to explain that I would never do such a thing. But they didn't believe me and dismissed it as my forgetfulness. However, things came to a head when I walked into my room one day after school and found Claire playing with my lipsticks on my vanity table. I was stunned and asked her what on earth she was doing in my room. Claire turned around, looking guilty as I approached the vanity. My heart sank at the sight of my collection of lipsticks which I had bought over the years, completely destroyed. Frustrated and angry, I couldn't help but scream in disbelief. My mom rushed into the room to see what had happened and was shocked to see my ruined lipsticks. She questioned Claire about her actions. But Claire simply said she was playing. I know this might seem normal between sisters, but I knew my little sister well and this was not her usual behavior. Until then, I always trusted Claire. I never would have suspected my little sister of acting so maliciously. However, reflecting on the past incidents and connecting the dots, it became clear that she was the one responsible for cutting holes in my clothes and taking my contact lenses. I confronted her, demanding answers, wanting to understand why she would do such things. At first, my mom tried to calm the situation, expressing disbelief that Claire could be behind it. But I couldn't let it go and kept questioning her until Claire admitted through tears that she had done all those things. Hearing this, my mom's expression changed to one of surprise and concern. She gently asked Claire why she had done something so destructive. Claire, with tears in her eyes, then confessed. Our grandparents had filled her head with negative ideas, constantly reminding her that I was adopted and that I shouldn't really be living with them. They also fueled her jealousy, suggesting that I was trying to take away her inheritance and that our parents preferred me over her. The manipulation had led Claire to develop animosity towards me. Over time, I felt a surge of anger upon hearing what Claire had confessed. It was frustrating because I had kept silent about my grandparents' animosity towards me for so long. Now, seeing them manipulate Claire, I felt they had crossed a line. I knew that if Dad found out what was going on, he would react strongly and might even cut off Claire's contact with them. Mom seemed to understand this too, because she started urging me to let the matter go and promised to talk to Claire separately. She emphasized that it wasn't necessary to bring this issue to Dad's attention immediately. I questioned her decision, feeling that Dad deserved to know the truth behind Claire's behavior, since our grandparents were to blame. However, Mom insisted firmly that involving Dad could lead to Claire being scolded unfairly, implying that I didn't love my little sister enough. Reluctantly, I forgave Claire, trusting that Mom would handle the situation delicately. It's disheartening to say that despite Mom's efforts to intervene, the situation between us never improved. Claire's behavior towards me only worsened over time. When she entered her teenage years, she became more cruel and hurtful. She mocked my appearance and weight, making me feel insecure about myself. Whenever I came home from college for a visit, she would play cruel pranks on me and record them for her social media, increasing my embarrassment. What made things worse was her attitude towards my relationships. Whenever I introduced a boyfriend to my parents, Claire would try to flirt with them in front of me and even go so far as to suggest they could find someone better than me. This was not only disrespectful, but also humiliating for me. Of course, I would yell at her and Dad would side with me, reminding Claire that she had no right to speak to me that way. But Mom often remained silent. I suppose in her mind, she kept refusing to accept how deeply her parents had managed to drive a wedge between Claire and me. Just 3 years ago, our maternal grandparents invited everyone on a paid trip. But as expected, they conveniently excluded me. By then, I had learned to be okay with that exclusion, so it didn't bother me as much as it once would have. However, Dad refused to join the trip in protest. This decision frustrated both Mom and Claire. Mom, although she understood where Dad was coming from, tried to change his mind. Claire, on the other hand, had a heated argument with him, questioning why he chose to withdraw from a family trip just because of me. She said I was an adult and that I didn't even want to come, which was laughable since I hadn't even been invited. She tried to convince him not to miss out on the trip because of me. Despite her pleas, Dad stood firm in his decision, refusing to go without me. After the trip, Claire posted a bunch of photos with our cousins, accompanied by captions like real family and life companions. Although it deeply hurt me to know that my sister still saw me as an adopted sibling, I chose not to say anything to her. Over the years, I started going to therapy to heal and become more confident. This was also influenced by the fact that I met the love of my life, Math. He saw firsthand how rude my little sister was and encouraged me to stand up to her. Following his advice, I began talking to a psychiatrist, where I discovered that the main reason I never argued or stood up to Claire was that I somehow felt guilty for not being our parents' biological child. The hurtful words of my maternal grandparents during my childhood had somehow made me feel inferior and see myself as less than Claire. As a result, I let her walk all over me. However, as I started to heal and understand myself better, I gradually began to reclaim my self-worth and confidence. Nowadays, I no longer let Claire get away with being rude to me. When we meet at family dinners or events, if she mutters a sarcastic comment about me, I make sure to give it back to her. Initially, she was shocked to see me standing up for myself. But over time, she has learned the hard way that I am no longer someone she can mess with. Now she keeps her opinions to herself no matter how much she hates me. Unlike me, Claire doesn't have a good job, which is her biggest insecurity. She resents the fact that I have a higher degree and a better paying job. My financial stability allows me the freedom to travel wherever I want while she still relies on our grandparents' support, coming to the main incident that has led me to write on Reddit today. Just a few months ago, I discovered I was pregnant. It was incredible news for Matt and me as we had been trying for a while. When I called my parents to share the news, They were overjoyed and told me how excited they were to meet their future grandchild. Matt and I have been reading multiple parenting books to prepare and be ready to take care of our baby. We have also put a lot of effort into redecorating and transforming a spare room in our house into a nursery for our little one. This week my baby shower was planned and my cousins on my dad's side were handling all the preparations. I was excited to reunite with my family for such a joyful occasion and celebrate with them. Just 2 days ago, Mom called me to drop a bombshell. My sister Claire was getting a divorce. I was completely baffled because I had no idea her marriage was in trouble. For me, Claire's husband, Cameron, always seemed like a decent guy. Although I wasn't invited to their wedding, I was always polite and friendly with Cameron whenever we met at family gatherings. It turns out Cameron caught Claire sleeping with a coworker at their house. This discovery triggered a massive confrontation between them, leading Cameron to kick her out of the house. Claire then had no choice but to move in with our parents. Dad, understandably, was furious with Claire. He firmly told her that if she couldn't honor the sanctity of marriage, then she deserved the divorce and to live on her own. On the other hand, Mom felt this was just a mistake that could potentially be rectified through couples therapy for Cameron and Claire. However, Cameron has remained steadfast in his decision to divorce and has cut off all communication with my sister. Faced with this, Mom told me it was best to cancel my baby shower that was to be held this week. Since Claire was very miserable at the moment, I was stunned by her suggestion and gently reminded her that I had already sent out invitations and made arrangements, so canceling was not an option. At that point, Mom insisted that Claire was in a very vulnerable state and seeing me celebrate a baby shower might be too much for her. I reminded Mom that the world didn't revolve around Claire and that I was organizing a baby shower for my baby. It had nothing to do with my sister or her situation. I firmly expressed that if she felt uncomfortable attending, she was welcome to stay home with my sister, but my event would go on as planned. Clearly, Mom was not happy with my decision and continued to argue, but I didn't back down. I was furious by the time I ended the call with her. It was really exhausting to see Mom always supporting and favoring Claire over me. I thought that after our disagreement, she would let the matter go or realize how wrong she was to suggest canceling my own baby shower. Today, I was looking forward to my baby shower. Mom was supposed to pick me up from home, but we hadn't spoken much after our last fight, so I made arrangements to go to the venue with one of my cousins. However, I was pleasantly surprised when Mom showed up unexpectedly to pick me up. I felt it was a sign of hope that she was finally showing support and that we could move past the dispute. Imagine my surprise when Mom solemnly entered my place to inform me that she had some news to share. Initially, I feared the worst and felt a wave of anxiety wash over me. However, Mom assured me it was nothing serious and helped me sit on the couch so we could talk. She then informed me that since I had refused to cancel the baby shower, she had decided to cancel it on my behalf. I was stunned, blinking in disbelief as she explained how she believed she had saved me from potential embarrassment. Confused and frustrated, I asked her what the hell she was talking about. Mom continued saying it wouldn't look good for me or our family to celebrate while my sister was going through a divorce. In her opinion, canceling a simple baby shower was a minor sacrifice to pay in support of my sister during such a difficult time. I felt completely betrayed and enraged. Every fiber of my being wanted to scream at my mom about how she had violated my trust. However, because I am pregnant, I forced myself to contain those impulses. I closed my eyes tightly, counting to 10, desperately trying to regain my composure. When I opened them again, the disappointment and pain were still there. But I managed to ask my mom firmly to leave my house immediately. I couldn't bear her presence around me after such a betrayal. At that moment, I felt she had not only ruined my celebration, but also ignored my feelings and autonomy as an adult and future mother. Since Mom left in a huff, I've been an emotional wreck. It feels like my emotions are on a constant roller coaster and the tears won't stop falling. I had to seek support from Matt and he is on his way. After hearing what happened, it's simply unbelievable that my own mom did this to me. Part of me is tempted to reveal the truth behind my sister's divorce, knowing Mom is probably trying to cover it up. That might be why she canceled my baby shower so no one would ask about it. I'm grappling with what is right and just which is why I'm posting this. Update 1, thank you all for your comments. I have read each one of them and would like to clarify a few things. Firstly, Claire is responsible for the cancellation of my baby shower. Mom and she have always been very close, so I am sure my sister was the one who first had this idea. Additionally, the day they canceled my baby shower, Claire texted me telling me not to be so sensitive about my event and that I shouldn't be so hard on Mom. She went on to say that she didn't want Mom to have to answer questions about her divorce all day and that my family should understand this. She also asked me to keep her affair with her boss a secret. Secondly, Mom tried calling me several times afterward to keep trying to convince me and justify her actions, but this time Matt wanted to speak with her. He began the conversation by telling her what he thought and making it very clear how ridiculous it was that she canceled my baby shower without my knowledge. He firmly stated that he would never allow her to meet our child if she continued to disrespect me so blatantly. Mom was shocked by this. However, after what she did to me, I can't help but agree with my husband's decision. Lastly, my dad is currently not speaking to either Mom or my sister after finding out what they did since they canceled my baby shower. He and Matt have discussed and decided to organize a new one to which Mom and my sister will not be invited. I have also spoken with all my cousins who reached out to see how I was after receiving Mom's message about the cancellation of the baby shower. They all agree that Mom crossed the line and this time they don't want anything to do with her. Additionally, I have received several messages from people asking why I never informed Dad about how my maternal grandparents were influencing Claire's negative opinions of me. Honestly, I trusted Mom to address this issue with Claire. I didn't want to create unnecessary conflicts within the family. Sometimes as children, we find ourselves in situations where we have to choose to remain silent even if it is uncomfortable. As a child, I hoped that my mother would advocate for me and defend me against her parents, but unfortunately, that never happened. Clearly, she preferred her own daughter over her adopted daughter. Moreover, as I said, my confidence and my world were affected by the experiences I lived through as a child. Update 2. Well, I have a big update to share today. I felt that since both Mom and Claire refused to acknowledge any fault for their actions, I needed to teach them a lesson to leave me alone for the rest of their lives. I took your advice and sat down to draft a detailed email addressed to each and every member of my family explaining why my sister is going through a divorce. I didn't hold back in detailing her affair with her boss and how she had shattered her husband's trust when he discovered them. But I didn't stop there. I also highlighted how Mom canceled my baby shower out of shame for my sister's life choices and didn't want to face anyone. I meticulously crafted the email, ensuring each word would provoke the same anger and frustration in them that they had made me feel. I felt completely justified in my actions when I hit send on that email. It was my way of standing up for myself, of letting everyone know the truth behind the facade. Mom and my sister were trying to maintain our perfect family. As you can imagine, Mom and my sister reacted exactly as I had anticipated. They started calling me furiously, leaving me voicemails filled with accusations. Consciously, I chose not to answer, letting their calls go to voicemail so I could listen to them later. Mom kept sending me messages insisting that I should send another email, retracting my statements and emphasizing that I shouldn't embarrass my poor sister. But I ignored her. I am sure they are both getting calls from the whole family trying to verify the details in my email. I have no regrets about what I have done. I am sure now Mom will think twice before interfering in my life again. Surprisingly, that's not all. My maternal grandparents also tried to get in touch with me. They must have read my email and were clearly upset about exposing my sister. Despite their attempts to contact me, I ignored their calls for the sake of my mental peace. I am sure they are even more furious now, which only brings me more satisfaction. Update 3. As many of you wanted another update on my situation, here it is. I finally had my baby shower and it was epic. My cousins and close family friends came to give me the most wonderful experience thanks to my dad and Matt. The decorations were perfect, the food was delicious and the atmosphere was filled with joy and excitement. It was a day full of love and positivity and I couldn't be more grateful to everyone who made it possible. As for my mom and Claire, they are not having a good time. Dad reached his limit with Claire's behavior when she recently came home drunk after a date with her boss. Just to clarify, the guy she's been having an affair with is married and has kids, so it's obviously very wrong. When Dad saw the state she was in, he finally had enough and asked her to leave the house. He felt it was time for her to take responsibility and start living independently since she had never lived alone her entire life. Claire attended college in our city to continue living at home and after graduation she moved directly in with her ex-husband Cameron. Dad did the right thing by kicking her out. Mom initially opposed his decision but eventually gave in when he asked her to leave with Claire if she wanted to accompany her. I have no idea if Claire currently lives in her own apartment or is couch surfing with friends, but I am glad she never called me for help. I know many of you were worried about the impact of Mom's actions on my parents' marriage. Despite everything, I don't think they will divorce. They have been together for so long and despite the challenges they have faced, they seem committed to staying together. Although Mom's actions may have strained our relationship, I still value their marriage and hope they can find a way to resolve their differences. It is disappointing that neither Mom nor Claire has offered an apology. Although Mom has tried to contact me a few times, her messages are only about how hurt she is and nothing about how much she hurt me. It seems she still does not fully understand the impact of her actions. What really bothers me is that she could have addressed these issues between my sister and me a long time ago when we were younger, but she chose to consciously ignore the warning signs, and now it is too late for us. Our family is fractured now, and I blame her for it. I am planning to cut off contact permanently with my sister and mom's family because I don't want my child to be surrounded by negativity or hate. As for Matt and me, we are doing well. He is an incredible partner and takes great care of me. This might be my last update on this matter, as I want to move on and focus on enjoying these last weeks of my pregnancy. Update 4. This update comes after giving birth, and it's a girl, by the way, born healthy, so I am very happy. Also, Matt has been my rock all this time, especially with the things going on in the family, or what's left of it. I don't know where to start, but I will try to explain everything as best as possible, so you understand what has happened these past few months. The last thing I mentioned was that my dad was very angry with my sister and mom for their favoritism over the years. Well, now the ones getting divorced are my parents. Or rather, it is my dad who has decided. My mom is still fighting for it not to happen. This started a couple of months ago, shortly after Dad kicked Claire out of the house. One day, Claire came back to talk to my dad because she was running out of places to stay in the city. So she wanted to convince him to take her back. My dad refused again, saying he couldn't keep spoiling a spoiled child like her. As what a good father should have done is educate her better. And that's when Claire dropped the bomb. She said he wasn't her father. Anyway, she regretted it as soon as she said it. But my dad pressed her to explain what she meant. She quickly left the house, and my dad started calling her and leaving her hundreds of messages because he wanted an explanation. Then my mom came back from shopping and he asked her for explanations as well. When he saw the scared look on my mom's face, he knew very well what was going on. So he packed his things and came to live with us for a while. Luckily, we have a big house, so there was room for my dad. Finally, everything was revealed with a paternity test where my dad painfully found out that Claire was not his daughter. My mom suspected it and had told Claire because they were so close. Apparently, she had an affair with someone, and that resulted in her getting pregnant. The chances of my dad being the biological father were very slim because they had been trying for a long time. But my mom, seeing she was finally going to have her own baby, decided to hide everything. She tried to tell my dad to do couples therapy and that the mistake could be easily fixed. But my dad completely refused and filed for divorce a few days later. Since then, the families are divided. On one side, my mom's family, and on the other, my dad's. It's not hard to know which side I am on. I haven't spoken to Claire or my mom because they are all blocked. But I did exchange some words when my mom showed up at the house to talk to my dad, although they were more like requests for her to leave. Anyway, my dad has now found a place and is asking not to pay anything in the divorce because we are in a state where infidelity is important for the divorce process. On the other hand, I know Claire has moved in with my mom, so all this has worked out quite well for her because she got what she wanted. She hasn't even bothered to contact my dad to see how he is or anything more, proof that she is truly my mom's biological daughter because she can only think of herself. Update 5. This update is to tell you that my parents' divorce is finalized and my mom had to sell her house. She was ordered to split the property in two, so my mom had to sell to pay my dad's share. As for my dad, he doesn't have to pay anything to my mom because although she didn't work and he was the only one who did, the infidelity played in my dad's favor. So what I know is that my mom and sister are living together with the money from the house sale and Claire's salary, although it won't last them very long. But that's all I know, as the families hardly talk to each other after everything that happened.